you can't allow a guy to start two quarterbacks. And it's the only platform that does it. Yahoo, Sleeper, all of the other ones don't have him listed as a tight end. It's just bum-ass ESPN.
Well, like I said, if they list him that way, the argument I would make is that he's listed this way because you could use him at either one. Now you're just being butthurt because I'm planning on doing that, what they intended in the first place.
I guess. I mean, it's like to say you don't do fantasy baseball, but like if a relief pitcher has a starting pitcher tag, like they can be listed as both. Like you can't use him as a starting pitcher in the relief pitcher slot.
All right.
Like that's technically like taboo. So that's the situation I liken it to. But oh well, I digress.
We are live, and obviously, if you guys are joining us, we'll get into it in a second. We'll do the video, and then I'll explain what's going on. You guys should already know by this point what's going on, but let's just get this party started.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! 3-run Jimmy Jack first. Big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
Going on, everybody? Welcome to Infinity Sports. Like I said at the start here, we know why you're tuning in today. It's the big Charlie Ward interview. We're not going to disappoint you. I know sometimes you guys tune in and you're like, hey, the guy didn't show up. We already recorded the interview. We're going to play it the second half of the show here. It's about 30 minutes long. We got a couple of things, news we want to get into first. First things first, obviously, if you are watching us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Twitter, we certainly appreciate it. If you miss any part of the show or you want to check us out audio version-wise, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, you can also watch a replay of the show the following day on YouTube. We do use a lot of visuals. We're getting better at that, so I recommend watching the video show personally. If you want to reach out to the show, we are available at Infinity Sports Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and at SportsInfinity5 on Twitter. Visit the website, www.infinitysportspodcast.com. You can visit, and it will take you to all those sites as well as the YouTube site and our great store where we have Infinity Sports Apparel, 12 is greater than 9, and the Sully Collection, which I am coming up with some ideas to freshen up the lineup there.
Oh, yeah, we'll get a Gaines shirt, because, we gotta get them Gaines on, and we'll get something, we're transitioning, folks,
So how are you doing today, Sully?
I'm doing well, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't complain. I'm up here in, we're in Gainesville today. So, we got the Gators. Gonna beat up on Vandy today. So I can't complain, man. How you living?
I'm not doing too bad at all. We got Kevin Fitzmore says, Wayne, my guy. Cool. What's going on, Kevin? Glad you were watching the show. We certainly appreciate you. Jesse says, keep it up, boys. And,
appreciate you, Jesse.
You guys look better in the daytime, just like Tampa Tom.
It's that Florida sunshine, man. It just brings it out of you.
I guess Sully's going backgroundless today, so
yeah, I apologize. That's my fault. We're in the like I said, we're moving here, so I gotta bring my stuff down. But we'll be all set up by Monday. I got you.
As I mentioned, the Charlie Ward interview is going to take place the second half of the show, so definitely stick around for that. He did sit down with us Wednesday. We asked him several questions, some of those posed by you guys, the fans, and he will answer those. So it's really cool. If you can't tell, I'm very nervous during the interview. I think I say about 1,000 times, and I almost never say it on our show, but I was just so nervous interviewing him.
Yeah, I mean, it was really tough not to be starstruck by Charlie. For one, he's so stoic. He's so calm and smooth, and his energy was just calming to a point. But you could tell at the beginning of the interview, I think both of us were a little like, it's Charlie Ward. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up watching the guy. So, I know a lot of our younger fans may not even know who Charlie Ward is, but, man, I mean, he was a phenom. So
definitely. And somebody who, I emulated when I was playing pickup out in the yard. And also somebody who in Madden you would create him and then draft him, So
yeah, exactly.
Big fan of Charlie Ward. Obviously, we got some news stuff to get to, which we're going to do before the interview. Here is our news. So the first bit of news, or the biggest bit of news I feel like has gone on the past couple weeks, or past week since we've been on, has been the NBA draft. We talked about it. We had a scout on the show. We talked to him about some of the prospects.
Great interview too.
Great interview. He was fantastic. Lots of knowledge. And obviously we have the draft board. I brought it up here. You can see, obviously, Anthony Edwards, number 1, James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball. This is the whole first round. Cole Anthony at 15 was a little bit of a surprise. We'll get into a couple of guys. Have some video, and I want to break down my take on them. I honestly could do an entire draft show, but we just don't have time for that right now. So we're just going to touch on a couple of different prospects. The first
you want to make it happen, we can make it happen. I'll tell you what, bro. We do the NFL draft hard. Let's do the NBA draft hard next time.
All right, absolutely. I'm going to get into the first prospect I wanted to bring up was the number 1 overall pick, which is Anthony Edwards. Now, Anthony Edwards, just so you guys know, he's a 6'5" guard out of Georgia. He was the 4th best high school prospect going into college. What the Timberwolves are going to get with him, I know there was some talk about possibly they might take LaMelo Ball. They weren't sure who they were going to take at 1. Even James Wiseman was a little bit of a talk at 1. They ended up going with Edwards. He's the most complete player, the most ready to step in and play right now, I think. So he's going to give you extremely hard work, extremely good effort. Overall, I think it's a good pick for them. I mean, there was no Shaquille O'Neal in this draft. There was no Tim Duncan. So you take what you can get. Anthony Edwards is a great player.
I agree. I don't think he's the most complete. I think the Ball kid is the most complete player. And honestly, I think he may be the most NBA ready too. Anthony Edwards, his lack of defensive ability on that side of the floor, I think may inevitably kind of be his downfall. I don't know if I expect him to succeed in the NBA. We'll see. I sure hope so. But I personally, I think I'd have gone with Ball. Just those versatile big point guards, man. I love them. I think they're the new, kind of trend in the NBA.
It seemed to fit, and I'm wondering if it's just because they had D'Angelo Russell. They're like, well, we'll ride out with him at point guard. So I don't know.
D'Angelo Russell could have easily moved to the 2, I think, though.
He could have. Maybe Melo could too. I don't know.
Yeah, play off each other.
Not a strong shooter, so I don't.
That's very true. He's not, but he's a good scorer. I think he can attack the rim very well. So, but overall, I understand why they picked Edwards. He is the much better shooter, and it's a shooting league right now.
Now, the second pick was the one that I was the most excited about. This is the Golden State Warriors. First of all, not a lot of trades in this draft. Usually every draft has lots of trades. Yep. Nothing. The Warriors, I thought for sure, were the prime candidate to trade. And I know there was rumors out there they might move the number 2 pick and Andrew Wiggins to get Giannis, which would have been nuts. But that did not happen. So they ended up taking James Wiseman. Wiseman's a 7'1" center out of Memphis. He only played 3 games last year, and a lot of that has to do with a scandal involving Anthony Hardaway. But in the 3 games, he averaged 20 points and 11 rebounds a game. He shot 77% from the field. He is a really, really good center. And he was the number 1 player in high school. He probably would have been the number 1 overall pick if he hadn't gotten suspended. But a lot of it just comes to Penny was his AAU coach, gave him $11,000 to move from Nashville to Memphis, I think. Then Penny became the Memphis head coach, and then this whole thing got connected, which it seems kind of shady anyways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this stuff happens every day in basketball, though. But yeah, it's definitely shady, and I agree. I'd have taken him number 1 overall, I think. Big men don't move like that. They're not that athletic, and when they are, it's special. He's Anthony Davis-esque, I think. If he can develop an outside game, and obviously, Anthony Davis has the ability, because everybody knows the story. He was 6'1" and grew 12 inches overnight. So he used to be a guard. But if he can develop some handles and an outside game, I think James Wiseman can be an incredibly successful player in the NBA.
Well, he's a guy. He goes to the Warriors where you've got Steph Curry, you've got guys who are established. You're going to basically a playoff team right away. He doesn't have to be a 20-point, 11-rebound guy his rookie year, which he would have to be on some of these lower teams. He gets to go into a situation where he can slowly develop and still help the team at the same time.
Which I think is the perfect situation, especially for a big man. Especially for a big man who hasn't played in as long as he hasn't played. I think it's going to get some time for him to adjust. But, I mean, guys that long and that athletic usually succeed in the NBA.
The third overall pick is a guy that you liked the most. That's LaMelo Ball, obviously the youngest of the Ball brothers. A little bit different situation with him because he was at Chino Hills for 2 years. Then his dad pulls him out and sends him over to Europe to play in Greece and all these different overseas countries to play against professionals. They weren't that great. I mean, I think he averaged like 40 points per game against these guys. But it was that idea of playing against grown men. Then he goes to Spire Academy. He goes to the NBDL or the NBL, something like that. And overall, though, I mean, the kid grew just like Anthony Davis. He's 6'8" now. He's a 6'8" point guard. And he just pretty much is an athletic freak. Other than shooting, which is his brother's downfall, I mean, he seems legit in every single way.
And to be fair, his brother actually, I'm pretty sure, shot like 36% this year from three. So he's improved that greatly. Yeah, I mean, he's like a Ben Simmons clone essentially, but I think he can shoot better than Ben Simmons, to be fair. I mean, he's not going to be knocking down, step back Jays and shit, but I think he has a better offensive game overall than Ben Simmons, and I think he has much better court vision too. Man, I think LaMelo's a stud. I think he's going to be a really, really, really good player, honestly.
I think so, too. And I think it's interesting that he goes to Charlotte to play for Michael Jordan, a guy that his dad said he could beat one-on-one back in the day.
Yeah, did you see the interview?
I did not, no.
LaMelo actually mentioned, somebody asked him, do you think it'll ever happen? And he goes, well, Michael's my owner and he's my dad, so I doubt it'll ever happen, but hey, you never know, or some shit like that. It was stupid, but yeah.
But yeah, I didn't like him when they did that whole Ball in the Family or whatever, and I was watching him. He was the youngest one. He was a little punk. I mean, he was 16 years old driving a Lambo. He was just such an arrogant, but I feel like watching him now, he's matured, maybe from playing against grown men, but he just seems like a completely different person than he was at 16, and it's only been 2 years.
True, and I also think, he everyone thought he was a douchebag, essentially, and an arrogant little, prick, for lack of a better word. And I think he took that kind of, he's receiving that feedback too, from people out in social media and things like that. And I think he kind of took it to heart and, like you said, matured a great deal.
And the pick that I thought was the biggest steal of the draft was Obi Toppin going number 8 to the Knicks. I really thought that he would be a top 5 pick. I know Jesse was livid because the Pistons drafted 7th, and they took Killian Hayes ahead of Obi Toppin. But just watching the guy's highlight reel and just watching him play for 2 years at Dayton, I know he's a little bit older than some of these guys. So that was
he's 25. I think that's his knock, yeah.
I think he's 22 or 21. 2 years. But in NBA years, that's significant.
That's
and
30.
The thing with him is if you watch him play, he reminds me of Blake Griffin. Like, he had 190 dunks in college. That's what he does. He gets to the rim. He plays, armpits above the rim. I think that this is a guy who's going to be a highlight reel his rookie year all the way through his entire career, and he will need to develop the same way Blake Griffin did with like a post-up game and layups and a small fadeaway. But overall, I think the Knicks got a really, really good pick who's going to fit in really well with Knox and with R.J. Barrett and with Nicolina. I think he's going to be a highlight reel there and give them a really exciting young team.
Yeah, I remember talking with the scout, and he said he would probably take Obi Toppin 1 just because of, his metrics and how he values players and things like that. So obviously he thinks it's a steal at 8. I don't know if I love it. I don't think it's the steal of the draft because, honestly, I love the Cole Anthony pick. I like the R.J. Hampton pick too. But I do think it's a really good spot for the Knicks. I think he's a player who's going to come in and succeed at what he does and knows what he does well and do that well. And so I do think he'll have to expand his game, but still I think he can come in and be like a rim attacker immediately, like you said, and be like a 12-point contributor right away.
Well, NBA news outside of the draft, we have the big news really is Klay Thompson. The word comes down. He missed all of last year for the ACL. ACL gets better. I guess he's playing some pickup ball with some NBA guys and ends up tearing his ACL. Rupturing his Achilles while playing. And that's obviously bad news for Golden State. He's going to miss the entire year. Really bad news for Klay Thompson, a guy that I know you and I both really like and feel like could be an MVP, on a team where he wasn't on Golden State. And it's just, I'm sorry to see him miss 2 full years now. Oh, actually, Sully's skipping on us here for a second. When he gets back, we'll actually get his take on it. Like I said, I know me and him had a debate earlier about Klay Thompson versus Allen Iverson. Obviously, Klay's the 6'8". He's got the length. He's a much better defender, and he might be the most pure shooter that I've ever seen. So, again, very sad to see it. Waiting for the Sully to get back on. He's a little bit frozen right now. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. While we're waiting for him, I did want to move on to the next topic, which is going to be the Boston Celtics, Gordon Hayward, who opted out of his contract, or he didn't pick up his player option. He wants to work out a sign-and-trade deal with the Indiana Pacers. I guess they want him. He wants to play there, but Boston needs to facilitate it because of salary cap reasons. And my understanding is that, Indiana has put Miles Turner on the table. So Miles Turner is going to be included in the package for Gordon Hayward, which is a huge coup for Boston. But Boston's come back and said, well, we want more than that. We want Oladipo. We want, Tyler Warren or TJ Warren. That's not going to happen. The Pacers aren't giving up either one of those guys, certainly not both of those guys, as well as Turner, to get Hayward. I think they're actually doing Boston a favor by, with picking up Hayward in the first place. He's a great player. I like Hayward. I think that he's underappreciated in Boston for sure because he is a complete small forward, but I just don't see the haul that Boston's asking for. And then, of course, the last bit of NBA news that I really had before we get to the NFL is obviously the Lakers going out, trying to strengthen their roster, trying to get better, make a run for a repeat, and they go out and they sign Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is the reigning sixth man of the year. He averaged 18, almost 19 points per game last year in only 28 minutes. So he's a guy that's going to come in and have an immediate impact. You add him to Dennis Schroeder, who, by the way, was the runner-up for sixth man of the year. And I think the Lakers are doing really well. And now the reports are coming out that they're looking to add Marc Gasol as well. So if they add Harrell, Schroeder, Gasol, they've got Wesley Matthews that they added, they are looking like they are set to make a repeat for the NBA Finals. Sully rejoins us. Let's see. I ran through the NBA news. If you just want to kind of touch on a couple, I know you were talking about Klay Thompson. We also talked about Gordon Hayward, what the Celtics are asking for him. And then, of course, the Lakers are making their repeat.
Lakers got Montrezl Harrell. That's huge. Warriors getting Kelly Oubre, I think is huge. It's going to offset the loss of Klay Thompson, I think, a bit. Kelly Oubre isn't Klay Thompson, but he's also, coming off, I think, a 20-point season, or an 18-point season and, shooting 37% from three. So I think that'll soften the blow a bit and keep them contenders at least, if Steph Curry comes back to the player he was. All
right. And the last bit of news that we have before we get to our interview, which is what everyone's eager to see, is some football news. Actually, I have the Saints have named their starter for this Sunday. It is going to be Taysom Hill. It is not going to be Jameis Winston. Interesting. I know there's a lot of debate about this. I know there are some people who think that Jameis Winston is a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I think that a lot of this boils down to Taysom Hill has been there in the system for a few years. They brought him back this year as a backup before they got Jameis Winston. I think they're giving him a shot. They're saying, listen, we're not going to keep holding you back. Here's your chance to show to us that you are a quarterback and that we should keep you.
Yeah, I think that may be it too. Also, we don't know what's going on in practice. Taysom Hill may just be outperforming, Jameis Winston. Also, Taysom Hill may come in and be the starter for – a quarter or a series. It should be interesting to see. I am not in the camp of, I don't love Jameis Winston in this fit of an offense. I just think he's a different player than Drew Brees. He wants to push the ball down the field, and that's just not who the Saints are. So that's why I don't think he fits very well.
Yeah, I just think that Hill is going to have a short leash. Like you said, he might come out after the first quarter. I think if he goes out there, he throws a couple of incompletes to guys who are wide open and just makes some bad passes. I think they do bring Jameis Winston in. I do think he is a more complete passer than Taysom Hill. So I think that he's the guy. Hill's going to get his chance. I think if he comes out, he throws a touchdown or something or leads a touchdown drive, his first drive, he buys himself more time. And if he can make it through the end of the game, I don't know. I think that puts into question Jameis Winston, who I think both of us thought was going to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seemed that way, and he's still man. I mean, Taysom Hill's 31, so it's not like, I mean, yeah, he's probably got enough time to be a quarterback, but also, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'd fully commit. They had Teddy Bridgewater, who played great in 5 games, and they wouldn't commit to him as their heir apparent. So, who knows? I think there's a lot to be seen still.
Well, that wraps up the news. It is time to hear from Charlie Ward. Like I said, what I'm going to do here is we did pre-record this interview, and we were able to kind of add our graphics and stuff following after the interview. So that's going to play. I have it on another screen. I'm going to share my screen, bring up the interview, and the remainder of the show will be Charlie Ward. So definitely, if you try to ask questions, he's not going to be able to answer them at this point because we already recorded the interview. But hopefully you guys enjoy it. I know that we did. Bear with me as I try to do this screen share because I've only done this, I believe, one time. So
this should be interesting, folks.
It should be interesting, but it should also I want that to take up the full screen. Is that? And let's see. Actually. Oh, okay, that's right, because I have that screen up. I want to change that. Oops, here we go again, folks. Again, I apologize, folks. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this here. Here we go. No, that's not it. Here we go. All right, again, I apologize for all the dead air. Here we go. I'm hitting the play button, and Charlie's interview is
not playing.
Whoop.
We have no sound.
No sound? Oh. Whoops. So hang on. I'm pausing this here. There's no sound, apparently. I apologize, guys. Again, if you're tuning in for the interview, it seems like there are some people tuning in. I have it up and running. We're not getting sound. I hear sound in my headphones. You're not hearing sound in yours, you're saying?
No, I am not.
Okay. And I know why. All right, again, apologies, everybody. This is going to be a really long section of the podcast. Feel free to skip forward because, all right, so let's just do it this way. And remove from the stream, screen share. I'm talking you guys through what I'm doing here.
At least it's not dead silence.
No, true. And so now we've got it. I had to share audio. That was the issue. Here we go. Now, for a little over a week, obviously, we have Charlie Ward, great Florida State quarterback, point guard, New York Knicks point guard, joining the show. We're very excited to have him on. Charlie, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem. Obviously, this interview is brought to you by Invader Coffee. It's 100% organic, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. It's a veteran-owned business. Enter the code BELLYUP on the website. You get 15% off your entire order. We appreciate them sponsoring the interview. And Charlie, we had just a handful of questions for you. I know our fans had come in with some questions. And the first question really has more of a request than a question, which is kind of just talking about your journey from being a top-rated high school quarterback in Georgia to the year of junior college, getting to Florida State, which, if Sports Reference is correct, was as a punter initially, and then kind of becoming the quarterback and then winning the Heisman.
Yes. That was definitely a journey. That's something that I think we all have in our lives, is a journey. And so it was something that I wouldn't change, because it helped develop me into the type of athlete or around it, because I was a quarterback in high school. Also was the punter. And then my true freshman year, I ended up, being the punter for Florida State and winning the job. And so that was something I had to, learn from, mature through, because I didn't necessarily go to college to be the punter. But that's what God put in my path to do. And I was grateful for that, prepared myself for that opportunity. And it was and valuable experience. Even though at the beginning, I wasn't for it because I felt like I was losing a year of eligibility to do something I didn't come to school for. But that was just immaturity from immature mindset. And so I'm grateful that, I had the experience because now I can talk about it and tell others, sometimes we don't know what God has in store for us while we're on our journey, but he's definitely preparing us for something.
All right.
Now, you're obviously known as a great two-sport athlete, in your college days. But, you were also a standout high school baseball player, apparently, drafted by the Brewers in '93 and then the Yankees in '94. And apparently in '94, you were a standout in the Arthur Ashe tournament. What sport did you have the most actual fun playing?
Well, I have a book out. It's called The Athlete. And the reason it's called The Athlete is because that's what I am.
That's for sure.
What I did, and that's what I do. And so I just enjoyed every sport. Didn't matter what sport it was. I enjoyed every sport. If you call me a standout in tennis, hitting the ball back across, being able to hit the ball back across the net consistently, I guess I would be a standout, but not on that level. But it was fun, having the opportunity to play against, John McEnroe, Joe Dumars. That was a great experience for me. And on center court, it was a big time. So that was a great time, part of my life, and I'm grateful that I had that experience for sure, especially the tennis part. Everyone kind of knows about the basketball and football, and some may know about baseball, but tennis was something I enjoyed just doing, not all the time, but just going out and hitting the ball.
That's awesome.
The question I had for you here, next is the use of quarterbacks in today's football game, because I know that your favorite player you'd mentioned was Doug Williams. That's why you wore number 17. Doug Williams was the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. You were the first black quarterback in Florida State history. And obviously the old, kind of racist adage about black quarterbacks, right? It was they're very athletic, but they can't, comprehend a complex playbook. And so that's why guys like Warren Moon went and played in the CFL first. And I'm curious, when you see a team like the Baltimore Ravens using Lamar Jackson the way that they use him with 15, 17, 18 carries a game, he's more like a running back. Does that kind of play into that adage, or like feed that, old thought process?
No, I think, mindsets have changed over the course of time, and stigmas have been, kind of washed away in a lot of ways. But, what they're doing with Lamar is, he also throws the football really well. And they're using his ability to help them, win football games. And he plays smart. It's not like RG3 his first year, I think, when they changed the offense and he was having great success, and then all of a sudden he started having all these major injuries. Whenever you watch Lamar play, he does a great job throwing the football, but also runs it well. He's a different type player. He's built for it, and he doesn't take big shots, and so that's very important. I think in the way that they are handling him. His first year, did a lot more, quarterback runs. I think now they're dropping him back, and he's making some decisions to run the football when it's smart. But they also have some quarterback runs that they still do, but it's off of its own read, which, that's, your choice in a sense. So I don't think that's feeding into any kind of stigma, because you have other quarterbacks in the league doing things that they're playing to their strengths. But like I said, he's not just a runner. He throws the ball really well. He's improved in that area, and I think that's something. I think over the course of our time, we've kind of gotten used to the dual threat quarterback, and now the NFL is starting to catch on to that piece, and you're starting to see those guys tear up the league.
No, I actually completely agree. One of my best hobbies is I do a lot of prospect scouting, and honestly, like pocket passers are kind of a dying breed now, and it's almost a detriment when scouting a player because you want them to have these movement skills and be able to get out of the pocket and things like that. Now you had the rare and kind of amazing feat here. You played with the trio. You played against MJ during the second three-peat. You played against Kobe in his prime and against LeBron at the very, very start of his career. Now, just can you speak a little bit about, each one and then where you personally rank them in the greatness list?
Well, they're all very good basketball players.
Oh, yeah.
And they've done great work in the community, helping others, whether it's through camps, whatever the things, schools, whatever their community philanthropic part is. And I mean, when it's all said and done, it comes down to a personal preference. People get caught up into who's number one, number two, and number three. They all are very good basketball players in their time. Just overall, you think about the championships that they've won, all of them, and people keep saying this guy's won more, but it really depends on the era, the team, what LeBron has done, being in the finals like 10 out of his 17 years or whatever, how long he's been in, that's just amazing. And what Kobe did with winning 5, I think it was, championships. Some with some great players, some, he had to manufacture with some solid players. And then Jordan, of course, winning 6. Probably would have won more if he'd have stayed in the game, but it was just they all have their own strengths when it comes to who's the best. And I'm just a big believer. I live near a cow pasture, and when I go by there, there's like multiple cows. There's more than one in that big cow pasture. And so in the NBA era, why can't we just put more than one guy in that pasture? If you want to take that analogy. And so I just think they're all should be in that GOAT pasture. And let's all just celebrate them.
If Wayne's got me through too, so
Wilt's my number one.
Will?
Wilt.
Wilt Chamberlain. I think you look at what he did in his heyday where he's averaging 50 points per game, the 30-30 games. I mean, just the dominance will never be matched by any player ever again.
Yeah, I mean, and people will shoot that down because one of the tallest guys.
Yeah.
And so, that's just the challenge. He was bigger than everyone outside of, Bill. And so it's just one of those deals where everyone has their guy, and let's just throw them all in there because they're all pretty good basketball players.
All right. Sully had a question about coaching the different levels.
So now, to piggyback off the 3 great players, you also worked with 3 incredibly great coaches with Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, Jeff Van Gundy. And I'm curious, like, why great college coaches, in your opinion, don't always translate into really good NBA college or into NBA coaches? And what is, like, I guess, the main difference that separates a great college coach from an NBA coach, you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there have been some people who've been able to transition and make it happen. There have been some that just wasn't cut out for, the switch, whether it's pro to college or college to pro. But the challenge that I had was, I enjoyed working with the young players when I was coaching in the NBA. Playing was great. Regardless of how old I was always coachable. But at some point, the players, they have an active voice, and they should, which I think most coaches, and even in high school, I try to work to have my kids have an active voice in the decisions. Of course, we're going to make the final decision, but we want them to have an active voice. But there are a lot of factors. There's finances, there's outside interests, and sometimes if you're not on a motivated team, with guys who are motivated to play at a high level, be the best teammate, then you start getting into all the other things, the attitudes, the mindset that I know it all, trying to take over the coach's job. And that's part of, just the whole NBA players deal in some form of fashion. But it was a great experience for me because it taught me the other side. I'd been on the player side, but just to see the coach's side of it, and the time that you have to put in to prepare for the game, the amount of film that you have to watch to make sure the guys are prepared. And so you do that as a player, but you get the scout report as a player. And the person who's putting the scouting report together gets to watch all the film, the plays, and you have to diagram all those things. And so, that's the best part of, coaching, I thought, in the NBA for me was being able to work with the young players, help them with their development. And secondly, understanding how to put a game plan together and then implement that game plan. Actually, not just me doing it, but watching others do it. And it started to make sense, after I started playing, how things got put together, So that's something now that in high school, I'm trying to be the best coach for our kids to help prepare them for their next step, which is most of them are college, or just to be, very good fathers and sons and citizens one day.
Would you say that I'm always curious the difference between, obviously high school practice, a lot of running, getting in shape when you get to the college level, right? I mean, you still have some of that, but I feel like once you get to the pro level, a lot of these guys, they get in shape on their own. Like they do their own workouts to stay in shape. So I would think that an NBA practice is probably more just like going over plays, right?
It's still drill work. You break things down. There's a lot of I played under Coach Van Gundy, so we did a lot of dummy offense to make sure that we understood and knew we did what we're supposed to do. There's a lot of 4-on-4 drill teaching, whatever concepts we were trying to get across. We did a lot of that. Some shooting drills, competition drills, and so it's very, regardless of what level you're at, it's still the same. Guys do get in shape, but they still need to be able to run up and down. Even though it's more games, so you're not going to be running up and down a lot. Just for guys to say their legs, but they also have masseuse and cold and hot tubs and all the different things, at their fingertips in the pros. But I don't think the practices from a tactical standpoint are different. And then even in college, the pace probably is about, is different because sometimes you may not get pro guys to, especially veterans who've been around for a while. You're not going to get them practicing at a fast pace all the time. And so that's something you have to gauge. And in college, you have to gauge that as well with the guys that are playing a lot of minutes, but you're only playing twice a week. The pros, you're playing more. So you're not going to, have taxing practices. We did, when we were the Knicks, but that's not happening today.
One of my questions here is for NCAA basketball. I had read an interview that you did where somebody asked you who the best college basketball player that you played against was, and you mentioned Randolph Childress from Wake Forest. And obviously you can't watch a 90s ACC highlight video without him crossing up George Phelps from North Carolina, giving him the come here and then shooting the three in his face. And my question for you is kind of about, Childress, you guys are similarly sized. He averaged 20 points per game in the same conference that you played in, played with Tim Duncan. You guys both had the opportunity to go to the NBA, but you had a 12 or 13-year NBA career, whereas Randolph Childress played maybe a year with the Pistons and then went overseas or whatnot. Why couldn't his game translate to the NBA?
I don't know. I mean, that's a hit or miss deal when you talk about, NBA and why some guys make it, why some guys don't make it. And it's really a preference to where the team is. I was blessed to be in a situation where I didn't really have to play early on. And I also was blessed to be able to have, a coach that ended up becoming a head coach, work with me in my skill development. And so, sometimes it's about being in the right place, being in the right situation. Because there was a new coach that came in my second year that didn't see me as a valuable piece to his team. And so I sat the bench for half a season, and that kind of stuff happens. If you're not given an opportunity, you could be, easily shipped out. And so sometimes it's not about your game matching or, being a part of the NBA. It could be just situations. And so Randolph was definitely a very solid basketball player. And, he was a tough cover because he had that green light all the time. And when a guy has a green light all the time, it's very difficult to cover.
All right. And the first question we had from our fans was from Terrence Carty. He's a fan of the show, and he had asked. He said he was always curious because he watched that Notre Dame Florida State '93 game, and he said the whole time he's watching the game, the announcers and he himself and his family are watching. They're all thinking the same thing. They said, "Why is Warrick Dunn not in the game? Why is he not getting more touches?" And he ends up coming into the game later, and you guys, kind of make that comeback. But he was curious if you had any insight as to why Warrick Dunn wasn't playing more in that game against Notre Dame.
I don't know why. I know I missed him a couple times. One where he was wide open, and I threw it to someone else after watching the film. And, after watching the film, you're definitely 100% correct. So during the time, I think Warrick played probably about as much as he had played during the season. And so we had Sean Jackson there as well. And so, Warrick was a spark plug. He actually, scored one of our touchdowns during that. I think it might have been the second quarter where we had some issues. But Warrick was in the game when we needed him, and we just weren't able. I mean, it was the last second miss, in a sense, and so we fought back to at least give ourselves a chance, and that's what championship level teams do. And I don't know if it was just because Warrick wasn't in the game as much as everyone thought he should be, but it is what it is. And Warrick made a great impact, not just in that game, but on our season. With his playmaking ability, and he probably could have played more, but that just wasn't, in the cards.
All right, now the next question here is from our good buddy John Vincent, and he wants to know if you did it all over again, but in 2020, making the same decision, playing basketball over football?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to fast forward because, as I said,
right.
we talked about earlier, mindsets have changed. People have changed. Guys now my size are going number one in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of skill set in the NFL draft, I should say.
No, yeah,
And so, in the NBA, they're, I don't know if I'd have been able to be a first round pick in the NBA. Maybe I would have. I don't know. But as I said, the times have changed. I'm grateful for the time that I did go in and get an opportunity. But if they're drafting guys my size in the first round, like they did for Kyler Murray and drawing a blank on, he's in Cleveland.
Oh,
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Then I probably would have been 100% committed to the NFL. But at that time, I wasn't. They weren't drafting guys my size in the first round like they're doing today. So I wasn't 100% committed, and so I left my options open.
So now, considering what you went through to start, this is from my uncle Rick Shockley, who's a lifelong Florida State fan. He loves you to death, man. He wants to know, considering everything that went down, with the punter and or having to play punter, and I know you said that built yourself up and things like that, but with the new rules today and being able to transfer on a dime, do you think you might have transferred? And if not, or if anything, and how do you feel about said transfer portal now?
No, I wouldn't transfer. I went to Florida State.
I don't think so. Yeah, I didn't think so.
And the reason was Coach Bowden and the work that he had done building up the program. And they had already told me before I got there that I was going to have to wait, be patient. That was just the system.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was going to allow me to go and play basketball as well. And so, I enjoyed my time. I was going to be here for 5 years, was able to get my degree. And so it was something that never crossed my mind, even after punting. And I'm grateful that I had parents that I could go and lean on to get wisdom from. But I was also close to home. I mean, I was going to have to compete for a job regardless of where I went. And so I was going to wait my time and compete, where I knew the system and those types of things. So that just wasn't in my DNA. And I mean, to each his own. Guys feel like they need to move somewhere. In this day and age, it's popular. And for some, it might be the right thing. It turned out well for some guys. Then it's been the opposite for, most guys. Just trying to find their way, trying to find an opportunity that, scholarship. But if they feel like they need to move, then, I'm just a big believer that you make your decisions and you live the results. I mean, we can sit and talk about them, say this is selfish and all these types of things, but when it's all said and done, we have to sit back and see what's best for us. And if that is what's best for you, then you make your decision and you just have to live with the consequences. So if your decision doesn't add up to what you felt was the right thing, that's on you. And like I said, we can sit here and talk about a guy transferring or opting out and all these types of things. That's all cool, but we don't have to live with the decision. And so, I mean, we can make it to where we're saying he's selfish or he's a great teammate, and what have you. But people have to do what's best for themselves. And I know as a coach, one of my big things is I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that our guys are getting what they need. Some guys feel like they want to develop faster than I may want them to develop, and whatever they're trying to get accomplished, then some guys move on. And I'm willing to live with that. And I talk to parents all the time about it, but I'm going to do what I feel is best for our entire program. And if you're a freshman on the varsity, and we have other guys who are guys that are in front of you, then you have. I'm big on roles, especially in basketball or in football then as well. You have to play your role, whatever your role is, and that role can change over the course of the season and definitely over the course of the year because people will graduate. But sometimes people are impatient with their role at the time and they want a bigger role, and so they move on. And the thing that burns me up is they try to find a way that you're not doing something or try to, demean your character in the process, like you're a bad coach or whatever. So that's the reason why they're leaving. And it all comes down most times to just straight up playing time.
That was the last question we had. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming out. I didn't know if there was a place. I know you have the book, The Athlete, out. I know you do a lot of public speaking. I didn't know, where our fans, if they wanted to find you, other places where they could find you.
I do a podcast on the Believe network. It's Believe in the ACC with Lloyd Spence. And actually tonight we have a guest. Our guest is Coach Dabo Swinney.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Maybe you not know who Coach Dabo Swinney is, but he's going to be our guest tonight, and looking forward to catching up with Coach Swinney. And that's I think it'll be on YouTube, Facebook Live, one of those outlets. But it's Believe in the ACC. I think it's on the Noisemaker page.
Okay.
And that's Noise is Noiz.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely direct some traffic that way. That sounds like a really great interview, especially with his star quarterback missing a couple of weeks with the whole COVID thing. If I was him, I would keep that going until the NFL draft, so he doesn't leave school.
Well, he's leaving. I'm sure he's leaving to go to the next level. But I'm happy that he was healthy throughout the entire process. But I'm not excited about him coming back. My Seminoles.
Yeah, it's not a strong year for the Noles here in Tallahassee, that's for sure.
No, but Coach Norvell is working to build a culture, some stability, and of course, it's going to come down to getting playmakers, guys who will play their role, continue to develop players over the course of their years, and he's playing a lot of freshmen now, freshmen and sophomores, and so sometimes you have to take your lumps and for future gain.
That is the truth. Such a quarterback driven league, so we just got to find one there, and then hopefully all else will follow suit.
That is true.
Well, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule, and I'm definitely going to tune into the Noisemaker podcast there, the Believe ACC. I can't wait to hear what Dabo has to say, and I want to hear how you guys perceive that interview. Again, super appreciative of you coming on the show today.
My pleasure. Appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
How are you too?
Yes, sir.
That was Charlie Ward. We appreciate everybody tuning in to the interview. He was fantastic to have. Obviously, we're hoping to have more guests on as well who are just as good. I know that it's going to be tough to find anybody as good as Charlie Ward, but definitely it was really cool having him on and asking him questions.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the insight he has and, the stories he has. And, I mean, he was such a cool guy, too. It's hard not to be starstruck when you're doing an interview with Charlie Ward. But, man, that was fun.
Well, again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll throw it to Kenny. I think I did it last time, so I'm stealing from you here. But, Kenny, what's going on, my man?